I mean, I remember in the past, someone would call me up, within the company, and I would just ignore it and let it go to voicemail, and then I would reply by an email. I think part of the reason why a lot of people, hesitate in communication is because of, the risk of failure.
Yo, 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 welcome back to another, I said yo, 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 it's almost ho, 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 it's almost Christmas, or is it not? We're in the middle of summer already here at BCD, a world of BCD, and we have another fantastic guest. Mr. Shan Rahman is joining us today all the way from down the road here in Atlanta. Shan, welcome to the podcast this week.
Thank you, Chica. It's my pleasure to be here.
Man, I'm excited to have you on. Shan, I've been passing you in the hallways for the last 7 years in Atlanta Concourse headquarters. Why don't I give you the, let's say it's a candy cane flavored chapstick right now. Tell us, what is it that you do at BCD and, your story.
As far as what I do, I've been here, with BCD Travel for about 17 years now. Actually, yesterday was my 17th year anniversary.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. I started off as a senior accountant, and now I'm the director of financial reporting. And as director of financial reporting, I'm responsible for producing various types of reporting, whether it's internal reporting or external reporting. I do it all, but I do it on a consolidated level for the Americas region.
Now, there's often a stigma, and this is a shout out to our listeners at the moment too, because we're about to step into some fascinating areas of what Shan would call financial reporting. Now, there's sometimes a stigma that comes, it's just Excel sheets and numbers, and I'm not good at that. But for the acumen of our listeners, I'm going to ask that you hang on here, because hang on tight, because Shan's going to run us through a number of hurdles of his daily job, and hopefully you and I can bring out some major learnings for even people that don't deal with the numbers at BCD, right, Shan?
Correct.
So talk to us about maybe just from a really high level. As you look down, you said that you're responsible for reporting. So are we talking just like what the company is spending? Are we talking about what the company is making? Is it just pure Excel sheets? Is that all your job is? Like, walk us through that.
Well, Chica, at BCD Travel, people fall into kind of two buckets, right? There are people who bring in the revenue. They make money for BCD Travel. And then there are people who decide how to spend that money. I, on the other hand, report on how that, where is the revenue coming from and how is it being spent. Those kind of internal reportings is primarily what I do. So for instance, on a monthly basis, I would prepare a report on our actual numbers for the month compared to our budget. And, it shows whether we are above budget, below budget. And then I can drill in and see, which country is over budget or under budget. And then I can even drill in further into the functional area, to see which department, is under budget or over budget. So those are just some kind of, examples of some of the internal reporting that I do here at BCD Travel. And of course, I present those numbers to the CFO, who then makes decisions on, what needs to happen. If we are not meeting the budget, then there's some hard questions that need to be asked of the leaders of each of the departments.
So Shan, let's back up then to this program that you seem to be very high on right now. You've been here 17 years, which is an incredible shout out to the company. It's obviously they've engaged you and you've continued to thrive in your role. I personally know offline that we've spoken about some of the big areas that I'd love for our listeners to hear. Where have you found that you've grown here in the last year? So,
prior to starting this program that I was mentioning to you in January, which, you are part of as well, I pretty much come in and I was working on spreadsheets and so on, pretty much, was happy to be, constantly left alone, doing accounting work and financial reporting work. But, after joining the program, it allowed me to utilize more of my verbal communication skills, and I feel a little bit more comfortable talking to people. I mean, prior to joining the program, had you called me up and say, "Hey, Shan, I want you to join this, podcast," I probably would have said, "No, thank you," But, the program is really, brought out some confidence in me in terms of utilizing my verbal communication skills. Now I prefer talking on the phone. I mean, I remember in the past someone would call me up, within the company, and I would just ignore it and let it go to voicemail, and then I'll reply by an email. But now
That is really
well,
interesting because I think that that's a cultural habit that a number of us have fought through. So let me twist this because not everyone's going to get to go through leadership programs in the next 4 months at BCD. So let's give advice to our listeners right now then, Shan, based on that learning, that confidence, and that example. What advice would you give to our listeners about picking up the phone and speaking, or now on MS Teams, putting on the video and talking to each other?
right. I mean, it takes a certain amount of courage, to do that. And, I think part of the reason why a lot of people hesitate in communication is because of, the risk of failure. And, I've been watching a lot of, link, TED Talks recently. And, one of the talks, for example, was Brene Brown.
So for our listeners that have never heard
Mhm.
the talk or seen the Netflix show on Brene Brown, what's one of the things that you took away? Maybe retell the story and then tell us the takeaway.
Right. Well, I was able to watch an episode on Netflix with Brene Brown where she talks about courage and vulnerability.
Hmm.
And she mentioned a story about her daughter, having to do a butterfly swim, and her daughter was very, scared of doing it. And because her daughter knew that she was going, not going to win. And the daughter ended up doing the butterfly swim and came in dead last. And she was Brene Brown told her, you won. You had that courage to go up there, and step into the water, and that was winning for you,
Hmm.
and for me, it was amazing. I mean, that was such a good message. I mean, it takes that courage, to do something that you're scared of doing,
So
something
good.
that takes you out of your comfort zone. And that's, that was just amazing.
I love
That
it,
that
and I think that that
that's
applies for all of us. We see sometimes we see colleagues around us that we would perceive as doing something different than we would do it, but
Mhm.
maybe for them, like you said, that's the win because that's them
Right,
stepping
right.
out. We see a colleague get promoted around us, and we say, "Man, if only I could win the race by getting promoted, win the race by getting an increase in salary." That may not be the win for you for that year because as you said, it isn't necessarily about winning the race. It's potentially trying something
Right.
new to stretch you in your role to be better at what you do. Really, really good point there, Sean. So, Sean, there's a lot of money being spent. There's a lot of money being earned within our business. How many people are on your team? And then maybe you can give us an example. I know that finance is such a big center hub within BCD. What are some of the different functions within finance that partner with you for the reporting?
Well, within corporate accounting and finance, I have a team of 2.5 people working for me.
Do you have the
There's
bottom
also
half or the top half of that half person?
yeah, sometimes the bottom, sometimes the top.
That's funny.
But we also have a general ledger group which contains about 50 people or so.
Oh, wow.
That's the team that actually records all the daily transactions that come in, that records all the expenses and so on. My team of 2.5, we report on all of that activity.
So here's a silly question. Again, breaking this down to basics. When it comes to budget, I know that for my family's, household budget, my wife and I make the partnership decision that this is how much we're going to spend on food for the month. And if we go over that, then we need to take a look and hold ourselves accountable. At the work or in the work and the reporting that you do, when you say budget, is that one or two people that's deciding that? Is that per function? Could you break down for us how that works in your role in the Americas?
Yeah, that's a good question, Chica. We're actually starting the budget process right now.
Mm.
What happens is that each leader of every department, determines, what they want to accomplish, for the year, for the next year, 2020. So they're going to say, we need more people, we need, some equipment, there's various things that people need, and that's where it kind of starts.
Hmm.
So, you know, I by the time it gets to me, I see the consolidated numbers. We see all the expenses, and 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 then we see, based on the expenses, we're going to need X amount of revenue to cover all of these.
And as you mentioned before that there's revenue, are you like what are you counting air transactions? What are you pulling together? Do you have any examples in that with the revenue
Well,
piece?
yeah, our revenue at BCD Travel are basically from two main categories. We have our customer income, and then we have our supplier income.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, transactions is a big part of what drives the revenue. Obviously we're in the business of travel, right? So we need to get our customer income, based on the number of transactions, and so the higher the transactions, the better we are as a company.
And then on the external side, because that's internal, what's an example of the external reporting that you're responsible for?
Right. I also do a lot of external reporting. For example, the government sends us a lot of requests. They want to know how BCD Travel is doing. Are we an innovative company? How much revenue are we bringing in? Where are expenses? And they kind of use that information to determine how the economy as a whole is doing. So there's those types of reporting that I do. Another example of some external reporting that I do relates to some clients who need to know, well, you know, is BCD Travel using, some of our dollars on minority businesses or, small businesses, various diverse categories. And so I have to provide a report showing where our dollars are being spent, on these various types of businesses, because that's important for many of our clients.
And in terms of the overall value, when you're pitching yourself and your role, maybe you could walk us through like some of the core values that your role provides to us as a
Right.
business.
Right. Chica, imagine driving a car and your gas gauge is not working or your temperature gauge is not working. I mean, you could get to where you're going, but it would be difficult sometimes. So that's what the role of financial reporting is. I
Mm.
provide these kind of reports, sort of dashboard, which gives a temperature check, on how we're doing as a company. And, the CFO looks at that report and, he can better run the business. So that's the value that, my team provides.
When it comes to forecasting, because predicting the future can be difficult, how does your role predict the future through the reporting?
Well, I again, I don't come up with the numbers, right? I just report on what's available. And we have it on a monthly basis. We have a team of people who determine, where we're going to end up at the end of the month. On a monthly basis, we may have new clients come in. We may have, a few clients that may leave, and, the revenue may have changed from time to time. Different things happen. So we have to continually project where we're going to end up at the end of the year. And, again, I am able to report on those numbers from an America's perspective, and again, can drill down into every, country or department level to see, what's going on and where the changes are happening.
Shan, I know that you you taught me something yesterday. Obviously, we a lot of us have access to LinkedIn Learning as a learning resource. What's the new learning that you had via LinkedIn Learning yesterday?
So Chica, yesterday I found out that LinkedIn Learning actually offers courses that are designed to fulfill your CPE requirements. And now
CPE means
CPE are certified professional education credits.
oh,
So I am a licensed CPA in the state of New York, and in order for me to continue my licensure, I have to do a certain number of CPE every year.
hmm.
And I just found out yesterday that many of the courses on LinkedIn actually do qualify for those CPE credits. And so I'm excited because I love those LinkedIn Learning programs.
That is
I,
genius.
I am a visual person, so I like watching videos and listening, um, rather than reading a whole lot of boring material.
Yeah, and I
A
can
lot of
understand
these.
that. And so I would encourage any of the listeners that have professional credits that you need to go after, consider that you could look around in LinkedIn, and if not, contact me and we can get you in touch with the administrators at BCD Travel. Jody Shekel, who was on a couple of episodes ago, talks a lot about LinkedIn if you haven't heard that episode. So I would track back and get that.
Okay.
Any other top learnings that you'd love to pass on to our listeners right now, that since you're beaming with your confident self?
Right, exactly. I mean, each one of us are at a different place, in our lives, and we, I'm sure many of us have learned different things from the program. I mean, for me, one of the things that I've picked up is on the topic, relating to people management. Some of the topics relate to, micromanaging, where I learned that I was actually a micromanager. As I mentioned to you, I've been with the company 17 years, and many of the processes that I had, developed over those years, I had held on to, and I wanted them to be done exactly the same way. And I didn't intentionally, you know, um, know that I was being a micromanager, but after joining the program, I learned that being a micromanager was not a good thing, and it just wasn't being productive for my team, and it was
Define
killing creativity.
micromanaging for us, Sean.
Well, I mean, it's following through constantly on a particular project, making sure things are done exactly your way. That's one example. I may call up my staff and say, where is that report? I mean, is when are you going to get it done? I mean, is it done a certain way, and keep following up on
Mm.
on ensuring that it's done to your satisfaction. Whereas I could have just passed on and says, hey, you take this report, you make it your own, and
And that's very much in line with a lot of the themes that we've spoken about as a group, where we're trying to move away from being a micromanager or a tactical, I've got to be in everything, to coming up a little bit further and saying, you know what, I can help lead you by empowering you to be executing on the job that you were hired to do. So that's some really good examples there, Shan. And so, like always, Shan, thank you for coming, but you don't get to leave
thank you for having
without
me.
5 questions that randomly get shot at you, where you have to give me as quick as an answer as you can. You ready?
All right, I'm ready.
And by the way, listeners, we don't do this ahead of time. I sometimes am not sure what I'm going to ask, and Shan, we haven't talked about this, right?
Correct.
Very good. So I was thinking last night, what, Shan, is your favorite Pandora music genre station?
Taylor Swift.
Really? Taylor Swift. Wow. I'll let that go. Oh man, I wish I had a Taylor Swift line to throw in there right now. There is no I in team. There is only an M and an E. What is your favorite letter of the alphabet, Sean?
A.
A for Shan.
Apple.
Number 3. Rollerblades or roller skates?
Roller skates.
Good man. The first time, or give me the year, or maybe even the name of the person, the first time that you wrote a love letter.
Miss Erico, my math teacher from high school.
Oh my gosh, what was the name? What was it?
Miss Erico.
Oh, shout out to Miss Erica,
Yeah.
Sean. And then the final question, I can't believe, what year was that, math teacher?
Oh, this was I was probably 16 or 17, at the time.
Wow.
But yeah, I enjoyed math. Math was a fun subject for me. So
It sounds like you've made a career of it. Your 5th question and final question, your favorite thing about working at BCD for 17 years, my friend.
yeah, I love the flexibility, being able to work from home, and whenever I need time off, that's been it hasn't been a problem. So
And,
the flexibility is great.
and thank you, my friend, for sharing with us all of your experience, as well as some of the new learnings that you've had to find your newer confident self, Sean. I'm excited to continue walking with you as a colleague, and learning from you every single day that we get to interact. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Chica. Appreciate it.